I'm your huckleberry.
Where there's thunder, there's lightning. John Nada. On another video, I got asked a question about Mgtow and, what age do you think is too early, or if there even is an age where, it's appropriate for somebody to be Mgtow. The thing about Mgtow is I don't think that there's an age to put on it. Mgtow is simply a philosophy. It's simply men going their own way. And so, depending on the person's life experience, depending on, the individual person, somebody might come to Mgtow at 25. Me personally, I didn't really fully accept the red pill. I didn't really fully become Mgtow until probably 30, 31 years old. So for everyone, it's different. I mean, they're men in their 40s, 45 years old, and so on and so forth. The main thing with Mgtow that I think makes the difference is not the age, but rather the experience. Because it's perfectly reasonable for somebody to have information and knowledge, especially as Mgtow continues to grow. More and more knowledge about hypergamy, gynocentrism, and the like have become more available to a wider audience, whereas before it was more secreted away. But you can have all the knowledge in the world with none of the experience to validate that knowledge. And so it's very easy. A young man may have all the knowledge about all this stuff, but still go in blindly and overcome with feelings, and versus the one who has the experience and has both the knowledge and the experience to see where things will ultimately lead. So I think experience in this particular instance trumps knowledge. And there's no age, no sort of age limit or anything like that put on experience. I think one comes to Mgtow when one's ready to come to Mgtow. A lot of talk has been made also about what Mgtow is, whether we should focus more on, this set of information or that set of information, whether we should talk more about this or whether we should talk more about that. And for me, Mgtow ultimately is about self-mastery and self-reliance, because that to me is what the essence of a man is. That mastery of self, that mastery in life, and reliance upon yourself and being able to fend for oneself. That is possibly one of the greatest weapons anybody can have, is that of self-mastery, that of self-discipline. But I can't ultimately tell you what Mgtow is, because if you say you know Mgtow, you don't know Mgtow. Because the Tao of Mgtow cannot be spoken, because it's different for every man. It flows. It's neither rooted in past or future, but rather in the now, in the mindfulness of the now. But it's important to speak to this idea of self-mastery, because a lot of people say, well, why, as Mgtow, do we talk so much about women and all these things related to them? If we're truly going our own way, why do we speak so much about women? Because women and the life script itself destroy this self-reliance and self-mastery. It is the greatest weapon and the greatest tool in the destruction of that self-mastery. And so, while it is perfectly reasonable for one to think that things such as addiction cannot be discussed without bringing up drugs, so too is it necessary when speaking about Mgtow, when speaking about self-mastery and self-reliance, and ultimately going your own way, to speak about the things related to female nature. Because these things about female nature, female behavior, are deeply rooted in, the lack of ability for many men to go their own way and to have this self-actualizing experience. Terence McKenna was talking about, I heard a talk from him a while back, and sometime before he died, he made the comment about when he knew that he was on death's door, the color of the leaves seemed to be so much more vibrant and brilliant, and that the simple act of an ant crawling on the ground to him brought him to tears at the beauty of such a thing. And so, in the same way, it's a metaphorical death that we undergo when we speak about Mgtow. We're not literally dying, but we are, in a sense, dying to society, the life script, the world at large, and becoming something new, becoming something different. Mgtow is deciding what sort of life you want to lead. And in search of that, it is in this metaphorical dying that we, in a sense, peel off the old skin, almost like a suit, and step out as a higher self, as a higher person, as a higher being, because we're no longer bound by what society wants us to do, what the life script tells us to do. We're not bound in our happiness and conjoined in our happiness to somebody else through the validation of another person, but rather through the validation of what we do, our actions, the things that we accomplish, the things that we do in our own personal life. It's no longer about, speaking to that, this idea in society that the highest thing a man can do, or the most important thing a man can do, is have sex, and that beyond that there is no other purpose in life, when in reality there are 1,000 other things that a person can do, that an individual can do to better life and to better the human condition and to better the world around them, and to leave a much greater legacy in having put themselves out there and put their energy out there to make a change in the world, make a change in those around them, and leaving a legacy of what they've done, rather than simply copulating, simply producing, and doing what thousands upon thousands of others throughout history have done. It's their name that's remembered, not because of a simple act that anyone could do, but rather what they themselves have done and chosen to do with their own lives. Their own lives are a memorial to them. It is this higher self that we should seek out. It is this higher purpose that we've come from taking the red pill into Mgtow and into this transformation. So I encourage each and every one of you to find what your path is and what that purpose might be. That's going to do it for today on the Days of Thunder. This has been John Nada, and as always, you're free to do as you're told.